Sam, you actually turned your client in over the weekend. Can you kind of explain how that came about?
Yes. So on Friday, Kate and Maya and I and one other staff member became involved in this case. After we learned about the details, we had to make a bunch of critical, time-sensitive decisions, and we collectively decided that contacting the FBI was the way to go. So we made that call around 2 or 3, and regrettably, due to maybe some administrative circumstances, we were not actually able to speak to an agent until Friday evening. Friday evening we got together with representatives from the FBI, and then we made arrangements to meet on Saturday. This is all at our client's request to fully cooperate with bringing closure as quickly as possible to this extraordinarily unfortunate situation. So we then reconvened Saturday morning.
Correct.
We met at our office with our client. We then received a call from Detective Feder and Sergeant Leroy from CPD Homicide. They requested that we meet them at the Columbus Police Department, which we did. At that meeting, present not only was our client and representatives from law enforcement, but also a representative from the Hocking County Prosecutor's Office. And so we were all working towards one common goal, and that was, as I said earlier, bringing closure for the family as quickly as possible. Our client insisted upon that, and that's precisely what we did. To that end, at our client's insistence, we assisted law enforcement Saturday afternoon and later Sunday, and that goal has now been met of bringing complete closure, at least with respect to this stage of the investigation, for everybody involved, but most important, the family of Ms. Busby.
Are you saying she's been recovered?
I'm saying that, yes. And again, it's impossible to understate the tragic nature of this circumstance. And again, I want to emphasize, and not being gratuitous, but our client had every right in the world to keep his mouth shut and not participate and let whatever chips there were fall where they may. He did precisely the opposite. He's been cooperative to the extent that he's been able, and that cooperation has been fruitful. So I can tell you that yesterday, and you're already aware because you've done your homework with respect to the furlough order that went on, we accompanied law enforcement and the FBI to Perry County, and we assisted with pinpointing the location of Ms. Busby. And so, in speaking with Prosecutor Rugg, who is the Perry County prosecutor, mercifully they were able to work through the evening with BCI at the helm and have, we believe, recovered Ms. Busby's body.
Will he be charged with homicide in Perry or Hocking County?
We anticipate that charges in that regard will come from Hocking County.
Do you know when?
We don't. As you can imagine, intelligent journalists that you are, these charges here, were agreed upon, and they're, I don't want to call them a placeholder, but he's not going to make bond, so nobody's trying to rush anything. I mean, there's some procedural considerations for all parties at play, but right now everybody has time to take a breath and move ahead accordingly.
I know you've got your client's best interest at heart.
Always.
Did he explain why?
So I know you have to ask that question, and you know what my answer is, having worked with us for many years. I can't divulge client confidences, nor would I. I can certainly tell you that there's a difference between being responsible for certain acts of which one is not proud, and also distinguishing from taking another's life. I can tell you that he will be entering a not guilty plea if and when he's charged with a homicide in this matter, and will proceed accordingly. But again, at this juncture, all I can emphasize is his complete and unfettered cooperation with respect to locating the remains, and also reemphasize the collective work that was done with our office, with everybody's help, and with law enforcement's assistance to bring much-needed closure to the Busby family in Indiana.
I know you obviously represent Mr. Thomas, but your thoughts for the Busby family right now?
You know, it's hard to put into words. Oftentimes, the perception of the public is that just because you're a strong advocate for those that are accused, that you don't have any amount of empathy for what a family is going through. I can assure you that my colleagues and I are not of that mindset. We, and this is going to sound gratuitous, but we grieve for this tragic loss of life, and we grieve for the circumstances attendant to this loss, and that's why we, along with our client, took every difficult step necessary to assist. You know, there is certainly a school of thought from a defense perspective. You just shut up and keep your mouth shut and do nothing, and just let law enforcement spend how many ever hundreds or thousands of man hours and woman hours it would have taken to locate Ms. Busby. We chose to do just the opposite, and I would submit that it's easy to say, oh, our thoughts and prayers and all that trite BS. We preferred in this case to let our actions do the talking. So you can imagine the twisting that Kate and I and everybody else in our office went through. Like, do we take these steps? Is it going to be complicated later on when these most serious murder charges are filed? Our client said, you take whatever steps are necessary to bring closure to this aspect of the case. And so I believe that those actions illustrate just how deeply committed we are to doing everything within our power to help the Busbys move forward with the grieving process. So that's where we are.
Do you know where authorities found her? Or
I do.
is that something that you can share?
Yeah, it's in Perry County. I mean, I can tell you that our client, along with Agent Lacey and others from the FBI, took law enforcement to the precise spot so they wouldn't have to needlessly waste time and energy seeking the proverbial, needle in a haystack. We short-circuited that process deliberately and helped move this along yesterday afternoon.
Did your client tell you why he was involved with a
Again,
young girl?
these are. I understand these are important questions for you, but I wouldn't answer that. It's bad. I'm not trying to be shitty, but I mean it's a good question, but one I can't answer.
Anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, I think you've asked good questions, and again, we just are and were committed to moving this portion of the investigation along as quickly as possible.
So what happens now?
Well, there are still some ongoing details and leads that are being pursued very diligently by Sergeant Leroy and other members of the Columbus Division of Police. They're working incredibly diligently to bring further closure, and that's, as you would say in your business, a developing story. So that's all I know.